can jump that high, Malone. You stood on something.
Hello and welcome back to Book versus Movie, the podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Brooklyn Fitchick.
Hi, everyone.
We're very excited to talk about today's episode. We have some really fun stuff coming up. If you're brand new, yes, this is a podcast where we say book, but really we'll consider any film adaptation from any kind of like literary source. It could be a book. It could also be a play, a musical, a magazine article, a poem, a song. As long as there is some source material that we're talking about, a movie's been adapted from it, it's on the table. Couple of ground rules though. Number 1, it has to be streaming on a major platform. Number 2, we have to be able to get our hands on the source material without too much trouble or expense because we want everybody to be able to participate as well. So we're glad you're here. If you want to meet other listeners of this podcast, you want to give us some suggestions. Next month is Mysteries in May. Very, very excited about Mysteries in May. This is our second, was last year the first year that we did it?
I can't remember, but yeah, maybe.
So we have a couple of ideas, but we still have some open spots for Mysteries in May. And then later on, we've got, spooky movies in October, and then, of course, holiday movies near the end of the year, musicals in March, which we just wrapped up recently. So many slots to fill movies. So if you have ideas for adaptations, you want to see other books and movies that we've covered in the past, meet other listeners, interact with us, there's a few places where you can do that on the internet.
We have a basic Facebook page. Be sure to like it, but we're much more interactive in our private Facebook group. So you type in Book VS Movie Podcast Group in Facebook and ask to join. And we have 2 posts there going all the time. One is a list of shows we've already covered, and then one is a list of show ideas, that people have for us. We're on Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Book versus a Movie, and in those places you spell that all out. And then we have an old-timey email. Book versus Movie Podcast, spell it all out, at gmail.com. And Margot and I just got some stickers. And so if you would like some, send us your address via the email and one of us will drop them in the mail for you.
And if you really enjoy the show and would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
Patreon, Patreon, look up Book VS Movie Podcast. We have been doing the show for 10 years, so we've decided that to take everything from 2023 and then previous to that is going to be on our Patreon wall. Currently just went up there or soon to go up there. Austin Land, MASH, How to Make an American Quilt, The Insiders, Hustlers, Phantom of the Opera, Carmen Jones, Chicago. We've got great stuff there. Also, we have some things there that are for free, like really old episodes. So you could like noodle around there and it's like, hey, why don't you guys redo this one because it's 1,000 years old? And that we might be like, yeah, okay. Also, we post all the video clips that we use today. If you can't find it on YouTube or Facebook or wherever they decide to they screw it up for us, on Patreon for free, you can see them for free. So anyway, and everybody that supports us there, thank you so very much. We really appreciate it because we literally just use the money for books and movies.
That's right.
That's it.
It literally just goes to that, and we really, really do appreciate it. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you're not gonna. I know. Look, it's a Disney property. They're not going to let us show you any of these clips. So, apologies in advance. The movie's very easy to find. Let's talk about Escape to Witch Mountain. I'm so excited. I was going to say this book and movie. The movie, of course, the movie was such a huge deal for our childhoods. There was, it was a weird kind of era in Disney production where they were trying some new stuff, some new ways of getting to us Gen X kids. And there were some really talented child actors working at the time. Like we talked last week a little bit about Jodie Foster, and then the stars of this film may have some really quality talented kids in this production. Uh, but the book, and I remember reading the book when I was a kid. Did you read
Mhm.
it back
No.
then, back in the day? And I remembered really liking it, and of course, I really liked the movie when I was a child too, but gosh, I don't think I've seen it in many decades. I was extremely impressed with how good both of them are. Just spoiler alert, I really liked both of them. Let's talk about this book because I remember liking it, but I didn't remember it being as good as it actually is. I wish we
Yeah.
talked more. More kids should read this book.
Yeah, well, it was published in 1968, Escape to Witch Mountain by Alexander Key. We'll talk about him in a second. He's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
Really, really, I mean, this is so interesting. It's about two kids, and in this story that we read, the kids I think are a few years older than the ones that are in the movie.
Yes, they're teenagers, and, so there's some real key differences between the book and the movie. That's the biggest one is that, the kids, Tia and Tony, are older. They're definitely adolescents, and also Tia does not speak at all. She is nonverbal in the book, which I get why they chose not to go that route, in the film. But yeah, but a lot of the story basically is the same.
And we've talked about Disney, many, many, many times. We've had Disney Decembers and things like that. But Disney's has had, of course, it's known for its animation. It'll always be known for its animation, but they do live action films. And there was in the 60s, Kurt Russell had a whole career for a while there of these movies. And
That's right. I forgot about that.
right. And
Yeah.
when we were young in the 70s, they would release like once or twice a year, Apple Dumpling Gang and Gus the donkey that kicks the football. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's all kinds of like crazy stuff. So anyway, so let's go. It's 1968. America's crazy. There's a lot of turmoil going on in the world. There's a lot of distrust of the government that's starting to happen. And I
Yeah.
was saying to Margot that I'm writing a book about the movie Carrie, Stephen King's Carrie, and we've covered Stephen King's Carrie. It's on our wall, so definitely check it out. But there was this paranoia that was growing in the culture, and how did people respond to it? And so there's this idea of what do we do for power if we don't want to use conventional weapons? If we don't want to use like mustard gas, we can't do that. All right, that's wrong. We can't just bomb places. Okay, what are other ways we could use? We could have we could weaponize our minds. Okay, and so this is the idea of like the telekinesis and the body transporting and things like that. So it's 1968. The story comes out, and it's about two older teens, and they are Tony and Tia, and she doesn't speak. Tony does all the talking, and they have these paranormal abilities, and
Yes.
and they're in the
They've
Blue
been
Ridge Mountains.
Yes, they've been we learned that they've been in and out of foster care and sort of orphanages, state-run, institutions for most of their lives since they were quite small, and they don't really remember much before that. There was a woman who cared for them when they were very, very young, and they have
Mhm.
vague memories of her. They can communicate with each other telepathically, but Tia cannot speak verbally, out loud, and she is the one who has the better memory. So she gets these little flashes of memory of where they might be from and what might have happened to them. And there's also like they also were bullied, when they were in the orphanage. And so Tony has a reputation for being a kid who gets into a lot of fights and causes trouble, but he really is just defending his sister from the people who are bullying her usually. That's generally what happens, and so they've been through a lot. These kids
Yeah.
have been through a great deal. First of
Yes.
all, they lost their original foster mom, who they really seem to care about, and they don't know where they came from. They don't know why they're different in the way that they're different. They have no idea. And the other thing is that Tia has what she calls a star. What does she call it? A star box?
Right.
A
It's a
star something. It's a
yeah,
little box with 2 stars on it, and
Starbucks.
She carries it everywhere she goes. She thinks that for some reason something's bad will happen if it ever gets out of her possession, but she doesn't know why. And at a certain point, they're fighting with somebody as they do. Like I say, they get into a lot of fights because Tia doesn't speak and she's weird, and so kids try to bully her. So they're fighting, and the star box falls, and a piece of it kind of becomes unattached, and they discover a map, and they're not really sure like what it means. It's not really clear. And um, then this man shows up they're at this like an orphanage. I forget what they call it, but again, they're older though.
Reform school. And this also, yeah,
It's like a reform school more.
yeah.
It's not, yeah, they're there because they're a discipline problem, and they can't be placed by the state. So they're all in this place with other children who can't be placed by the state. And this man shows up one day and claims to be their uncle, and tells the people who run the place, like, "Oh, I'm their uncle, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that their parents had died in an accident, and I'm sorry it took me so long. I live in Europe, and I'm so glad they're alive, and I can't wait to take them." And Tia's like, "I don't know who this guy is, but I know he's not related to us, and I know he's lying." So so they just on there. And what I love about this story is it's so much about, for kids, it's so much about listen to your intuition,
Mm-hmm.
because logically, and all of the adults tell them, like, this man is your uncle. He has receipts. He can prove that he is. And they're like, "No, I don't feel good about this. Let's run away." And which is I think a great message for children. I really do. Don't go against your instincts. If you think something is scary and bad, run. So they run. But Tia can't remember, and so so they have various abilities. One is they can communicate telepathically, one is telekinesis,
Mm-hmm.
one is that Tia has the ability to communicate with animals. And also she has the ability to so they think for the most part that Tia is really the one with the abilities, and Tony, like, maybe has a little bit of telekinesis or something, but he seems to be the more quote unquote normal
The
kid.
muscle.
Yeah. But she also can unlock open any lock. As long as it's a lock that she's supposed to open, or that it's good for them to open. If it's a lock that leads to danger or harm, it will not open for them. We established this very early on. So those are the abilities that they have, and so they're running and running, and I forget how they
There's a
oh,
no.
they're on a field trip. They're on a field trip, and they're hiking or something, and they run into these nuns. And this one nun notices the children and notices their abilities. Like, nobody else is really paying attention, but this one nun is like, "Oh, hold on." And she's like, "Somebody came around asking for kids with abilities like yours." And they're like, "Well, who was that?" And so she didn't know, and she was going to come, but she said she would come back for them, and then she dies. And so the book is way scarier than the movie. Mainly because the children are older, so that already there's just like a lot of more danger involved. And so they decide to seek out a priest that she mentioned, and in the book it's a priest. It's not it's not Eddie Albert in a Winnebago.
No.
It's a priest named Father O'Day, and they go and they seek him out, um, and they tell him everything, and he's like, "Okay, obviously you guys are in danger. I don't know who's after you, but it seems like it's for nefarious purposes. I'm going to give you directions to my brother's place in the woods, and you just run there, and I'll meet you there, and we'll figure out what we're going to do next, and we'll figure out where you come from, and what you're going to do next." And one of the scary things about the book, which, and I get why they decided not to do this in the movie is that, um, in the book, like, you never find out in the book what the people who are after the children want from the children. You never They never know, we never know. We
Right.
just know these people bad and these children need to run. Just stay away from these people. Um, and okay, so now we're circling back to our author. One of the things that's so interesting about our author, there's not a lot of information available about him, but um, and the book is so well written. It reminded me very much of Bradbury. It has
Hmm.
a very kind of Bradbury-esque sort of feel to it, where it's like just real. It's just rooted in reality enough. So Alexander Hill Key, was born in 1904 and lived to see this movie produced, and I think was even involved in the production. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But he was born in Maryland. Um, and but not long after he's born, his parents moved to Florida. And his father owns a sawmill and a cotton gin. So what had happened, and I was telling Margot, I went down such a rabbit hole trying to, like, chase this story down. I could not find, I mean, I went through I even found out where it happened. I think I know where it happened, but it's one of these things that they didn't exactly report about in the newspaper because it was that nefarious. So, um, around this time, so around 1910, he's about 6 years old. And as I said, his father was he had a cotton gin and a sawmill. And at that time, how can I put this? There was They kind of get lumped all together, but there was like a culture of vigilantism that um we've talked about, when we talked about, say, To Kill a Mockingbird
Ooh,
or Fried Green Tomatoes.
ooh, this is gonna get dark.
Um, it's gonna get a little dark. So there was this group, I mean, it's not exactly the Klan, but I mean, I think I get the impression they're sort of Klan adjacent,
Hmm.
and they were called the Night Riders, which is terrifying.
No.
And they started, from what I can tell, they started as again, a vigilante group taking out their own justice against, strangely, against big tobacco. um they it started up in, like, tobacco country, from what I gather. And these tobacco barons were not great people, not great guys. And so these groups were kind of getting their own back by committing terrorism. But very quickly it gets out of hand. Very quickly it turns to um terrorizing anyone who does any kind of business with these corporations who run the industry. Like, if you have a tobacco farm, you can't not do business with big tobacco. Like,
Right.
that's just, you're gonna starve. Like, why are you growing tobacco then? So it very quickly seems to have devolved into, like I say, terrorizing individual business owners of these smaller things like cotton gins and sawmills, and then just, like, straight up lynching and murder.
Wow.
Yeah, really, it gets, like I say, it gets super dark, super fast. One of the most horrible things, and there are multiple accounts of stuff like this that they did, but they murdered an entire family,
Oh my
lynched an
God.
entire family in Kentucky. And so when Alexander Key, again, with no, like, it's not really justice, right? They're just terrorizing people, in the name of some kind of divine greater justice than the actual law. So when Alexander Key is 6 years old, the Night Riders come and destroy his father's cotton gin and sawmill. And they I mean, from what I can tell, they were lucky to get out of there alive. And um his father dies. Oh my gosh, I want to say his dad dies like right after this event. So
I'm
I don't know if,
sure.
yeah, like 6 months or something. I'm not sure if he was injured. Like again, it was not reported. That's that I found. It wasn't reported in any of the local newspapers. What I did find was an account where that showed how much his father's life insurance paid after he died. So I know when he died roughly. So I know roughly when it happened. Um, and I know roughly where. It was in a near place in or near a place in Florida called Brantford. And so anyway, um, and leaves Alexander and his mom without their father, without their business, right?
Wow.
And then the mom dies in an accident, and I couldn't find anything on that either. Like, what was the nature of this accident? It just said she dies of an accident when he's 15.
Wow.
And between the time when his father dies when he's 6 and the time when his mother dies when he's 15, most interestingly for this book, Alexander Key is in and out of like 14 schools.
That makes sense.
Does that make a lot of sense?
Yeah.
So you have these kids in this story who are seen as troublemakers, but they've been through a lot of, as Jamie Lee Curtis would say, trauma,
Trauma.
right? Trauma. That's so much so that they can't even recall it,
Did we
right?
mention that they're from a spaceship, by the way?
Not yet.
Okay.
So they are really, they need help. They need help, but instead they're getting blamed, and painted as troublemakers. And then also they have these mysterious people who are after them, and they don't know why, right? They don't understand why.
Mhm.
What do you want? They want to control them. They want to hurt them somehow, but they don't know what the purpose is or what's the justice, what's the reason. They claim to be from the government and they might be from the government, but we're not entirely sure if they actually are or not. So it's very, very interesting, knowing his history and that, I mean, he was a victim of terrorism as a tiny child. And I don't even know, like, what was the aftermath of that. I'm sure it wasn't just like they just left the family alone after that. I'm sure they still would show up from time to time and threaten them or something, who knows?
My goodness.
And so I think after that, oh gosh, I think eventually after his mom dies, then and then it also interestingly for this book, after his mother dies, then he gets kind of I think he goes back to Maryland, I think. Or he goes back to wherever she's from and lives with various relatives, until he's an adult, until he goes off to college. He goes to the Art Institute, um, in Chicago in the 20s. So, similarly, like getting back to your people, you don't know them because
Right.
you don't remember them because you were a tiny baby child when you last saw them. But they care about you and they're out there, right? Very, very similar themes. So, yeah, as the book progresses and that feeling of being an outsider, even going from school to school, he must have felt like that constantly. Like,
Right.
you know what that's like.
Yeah, I do.
So these kids are that's what's going on a lot with these two kids. This brother, but at least they have each other, right? They have their brother and sister. I don't think Alexander Key has siblings. I think he's an only child. Um, so as Tia is remembering things, and when they get to the priest, and the priest is also trying to help her remember, and kind of teasing it out of them, and she says, like, as they're talking, and now she's talking through her brother, let's be clear. But she's remembering things to the brother's sharing it with the priest. And they eventually think, like, oh, we were in a shipwreck. We had an uncle. Like, is the guy that's come? We did have an uncle, but that guy is not our uncle. We do have one, but that's not him. And I think her uncle is dead. And I think, right, as she starts remembering things, I kind of remember we were on a ship. I kind of remember, and they sort of deduce eventually that they are not from Earth, like you do. And that the star box that she remembers, that their Uncle Benet, she remembers, first of all, that they had this uncle named Uncle Benet, and that he wasn't actually their uncle either. He was just somebody that was with them as they were escaping whatever it was they were escaping. And Uncle Benet was the one who gave her the star box and was like, don't ever, like, whatever ever happens to you, you don't let this out of your grasp. Like, you hang on to this thing. And the star box has 2 stars on it, as we said, and they remember that where they come from has 2 suns. And in the star box is a map, and the priest recognizes the map as being the mountains where his brother lives, and near one of these towns that is called out on the map. And they think, well, maybe that's where our people are. We need to get back to our people. In the box is also some money to help them along the way, like a good chunk of money.
They're going to need it.
Enough to get them there. And so then the whole rest of the book is, them narrowly escaping these people, and the main man, whose name is Duranian, who claims to be their uncle. We see him conferring with somebody who might be from the US military, but we're not sure, and various other people who are also somehow in on capturing these children, but we never find out really why. And it's very scary. And eventually they make it to the brother. I forget what happens to the priest's brother, but the priest's brother is not there. He's never there. They show up and there's nobody there at the priest brother's farm. And then the people who are after the kids show up too, right behind them, right on their heels. And I'm like, oh, somebody's been here. Look, somebody ate an apple, left an apple core. And they, so they're all like looking for each other. And eventually they find their way to this little town, and they remember it. So they're having these flashes of memory. They remember the name Castaway. When somebody asks them what their name is, Tony abruptly says his name is Castaway, and he is like, Castaway? Where'd that come from? And then they remember, like, that we think that might be our name. We think our name might be Castaway. Maybe it came out of my memory. So they go, like you used to when you made a phone call back in these days, and especially in a small town like this, you used to go up to the receiver and go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tap it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that would automatically, remember this, automatically connect you with the operator. And then you say to the operator, oh, operator, will you please connect me with Mr. and Mrs. Patterson up on Cherry Hill Road? And they'd be like, yes, of course. They would connect you. So when they do this, they tap, 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 tap. And can you connect us with the castaways? And they're like, yes, right away. They connect them. And these people are like, Tony and Tia, is that you? And then they derive this, they're like, yeah. And then they derive this ruse to evade the people who are after them for once and for all, and make it appear as though they've gone away in a spaceship when they've really just gone up to this place up on Witch Mountain. With the local people call it Witch Mountain because every now and again they encounter somebody from up in that very reclusive community, and they seem to be a little bit witchy. So that's where they're from. They go back up and they meet their people, and Uncle Benet is there. He is not dead. Like Tiny Tim, Uncle Benet, who was not dead, is up there on Witch Mountain waiting for them. and they live happily ever after with their people. We eventually learn the whole story that the planet that they were all from, I can't remember, was it destroyed? There was some reason everybody had to leave, and
Yeah,
not everybody made it, but they found this place on Earth, on this mountain, where they might be able to have something of a life
we hope
until they can
so.
decide what to do next.
Yeah.
The end. That's the story. I mean, but it's super good. I was just saying, like, um, I liked it when I was a kid, but I did not remember that it being so well written, but it's definitely on par with a, Fahrenheit 451, or a, like, Martian Chronicles, or even like A Wrinkle in Time. It
Mhm.
reminded me a little bit of that as well. Very, very well written. Very compelling. I could not put it down. I was reading it on the airplane. I just simply could not put it down.
Well, so we get into the 70s, and Disney now is making these live action films. They're not as making as many animated films as they used to. And we have a star called Kim Richards and Ike Eisenmann. These are two young kids. This, I don't know if this is their first movie or not together, but there's a whole Kim Richards story.
Yeah. It was their first film together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they take it, and they have to make it a little less scary from that. So they make them a little bit younger and a little more twee, but it's really well done. I have to say, like, I really found this movie really well done. I was
I was
into
so
it.
impressed. I love all the choices that they made. And like I said, I think Alexander Key had a little bit of a hand, um, in the production, or, in the writing of it. I should say also that the book takes place a little bit in the future
Hmm.
from the 60s, and it was really interesting because there's some reference to, the Vietnam War, which in 1968 was still,
Yep.
not that far into the Vietnam War, and, extremely prescient kind of moments, and it really, you do get that sense of that culture at the paranoia, and all the whole Nixon thing of, conspiracies, and really weird stuff that the government was doing,
Right.
and it's all very unsettling.
And
Super, super good,
and
but
it
maybe
was
not for
all that.
Disney.
Yeah. But it was for that time. There was a lot of like stuff going, telekinesis.
Assassinations.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. And what are we going to do with people who have these powers? How do we take care of them? Do we take care of them? Like what, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So, should we play the trailer?
Yeah, I'm excited.
The engine will start now.
Those two kids are witches. Find them.
Now, from Walt Disney Productions, a motion picture of unearthly power. Escape to Witch Mountain.
Well.
Hunted.
You have power. Well, I want to be able to understand these powers.
Their only hope is escape to Witch Mountain. Rated G.
Rated G, y'all.
So that's an original TV ad for the film in 1975 when this comes out. It's directed by John Hugh. It's Robert Malcolm Young did the screenplay. You and I were talking off the air about Johnny Mandel, who does the music for this.
It's excellent music.
It
It's
really
this
is
whole thing, I
excellent
was
music.
so
Yeah.
impressed.
Also, the locations, like that's all I know. All those like Santa Cruz Mountains and all that. I know that
Absolutely.
very, very
Yeah.
well. So yeah, I was truly, truly impressed with it. So Tony and Tia are younger. They both speak.
Yeah. They're like 8 and 9.
Right.
Yeah.
And Kim Richards was a beautiful child with long flowing blonde hair, and she was in so many Disney movies when she was a kid. And then we were talking about she was in Hello Larry, and she was in
Yeah.
Tough Turf. We didn't talk about Tough Turf.
Oh, yeah, Tough Turf. She was in, when I was watching, again, another rabbit hole. So, of course, Kim Richards, we're talking about the same Kim Richards that's in the Real Housewives of, Beverly Hills, sister of Kathy Hilton and Kyle Richards. And Kim's the one in the middle. Kim's the middle child.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, when we were kids, Kyle was on Little House on the Prairie. She had a little recurring role on Little House, and she was tiny. And she's actually in this film also. And
That's right. That's right.
yeah. And Kim starred in one of maybe my favorite episode of Little House of all time. And Little House on the Prairie was on for freaking ever. Let me tell you, if you
And
all
it
don't
was
remember,
dark. Everybody thought it was
it
like a
got really
girl
dark.
show.
No.
It was, yeah.
It got super dark out there on the prairie. And it has a weird title, her episode. It's called like Party in Town and Party in the City or something like that. It has a weird title. But it's the story of this little girl named Olga Nordstrom, like the department store, Olga Nordstrom. And it's so dark, y'all. Or Olga Nordstrom, her father, and this is about the same time as she made this movie. So she's about the same age, maybe a teeny bit older. Olga's father makes leather for the community of is it Walnut Grove? Is that what it's called?
Yes, Walnut Grove. Yeah.
And if you know anything about the making of leather, it uses human waste and animal waste. It's not a
Oh, I don't know this
neighbor.
one.
It's not somebody you want to have as your like right away neighbor, so they live kind of outside of like a little downwind, and Olga is disabled. She has one leg that is significantly shorter than the other. And so she gets teased at school, but of course Laura Ingalls, Melissa Gilbert is her friend. They're friends because Laura's a good kid. But Laura likes to run and play, and when all the other girls are running around and like playing baseball and stuff, Olga can't participate, so she just has to sit and watch, and she always has to sit and watch. And the dad spends all day like up to his elbows in urine, so he's not doesn't have like the best attitude about it. He's not thrilled that his daughter doesn't get to participate, and he wants to shelter her from the world. He's an immigrant too. That's the other thing. He's a Swedish immigrant. The Nordstroms. He lives with their mom has died, and he lives with his mother. So it's the grandma and the dad and little Olga. And what's her name? Laura, Melissa Gilbert has Olga over to her house, and where she meets Pa, who's the superhero of the, because Michael Landon produced the show, in case you didn't know. That's why Pa is like the hero that fixes everything.
The woman who plays his wife, she has a biography that's out.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah. She's got some tea about
yes, she
how
has.
awesome you think Michael Landon was. Oh, she has things to say.
Yeah. She begs to differ.
She begs to differ.
I love her too. She's wonderful.
Me too. Karen Russell, right?
Yes. And so Pa is like Pa's watching the girls, and they go down to play by the creek and take their shoes off so they can go in the water. And Laura, who's very smart, Laura observes that when there was a plank down by the creek, and when Olga was walking with one foot on the plank, her shorter foot on the plank, and her longer leg in the water, that she can walk with a normal gait. And she mentions this to her father, and her father's like, oh, because he's Mr. Handyman. He built that whole little house on the prairie. And he's like, I can make her some special shoes. And he goes, understandably, man, he goes out to the Nordstrom household, and he says to her father, like, hey, here I am, Michael Landon. I'm going to fix your daughter. And the guy's like, get off my property.
We don't need your charity.
So they sneak her. The grandmother's like, please help my granddaughter. So Michael Landon's like, okay. And he makes her a special shoe that allows her to have, an even footing so she can run and play with the other children. The father finds out. He comes and punches Michael Landon right in the face.
which, by the way, he deserved just for other reasons, not for that.
For other reasons.
For other reasons. So it's okay.
But then he sees his little girl running and playing, and he bursts into tears, and he begs for forgiveness, and he just so grateful that his little girl can run and play. And Kim Richards is so phenomenal in this role. Absolutely wonderful. So this is yet another place where we had a lot of child actors showing up. Oh the Todd Bridges episode. Remember that one?
What about the one with was it Sylvia or Olivia, the girl that was chased by a clown that sexually assaulted her? Right?
Yeah.
That's what happened. I mean, it's like this is
on a family show. We were all watching this.
Family show every week. So,
and they didn't warn you like in the 90s when they'd be like, this week, a special episode of Little House. No, it could be about that, or it could be about churning butter. Who can churn the most butter? And we didn't know. It would just jump out of nowhere at you.
Or Albert had all of a sudden a drug addiction. It got deep, y'all. It got very dark.
It really did.
Yes.
It seriously did. So, when they were auditioning children for this film, there were so many, all of these kids that you saw on Little House and all the after school specials, like all of those kids that you saw everywhere, they all auditioned for this movie. Disney auditioned everybody for this film before settling on Kim, the perfect children. You believe them as siblings and everything.
Absolutely.
Ike Eisenmann. I was watching, I had time. I was watching a podcast with Ike Eisenmann talking about the whole casting process. And he said one of the pairings that they were really seriously considering was Melissa Sue Gilbert, who played Mary on Little House, the older sister, and Willie Ames. Charles in charge. Yeah, that guy.
8 is enough.
8 is enough. And that they were going to be the pair for like a long time. And then they settled on, I think, a little bit younger and went with Kim Richards and Ike Eisenmann. And Ike Eisenmann said that, that after this, he was on an episode of Little House. Cause like I said, all these kids would be shuffled around and be on all these different things. He was on an episode of Little House, and that like everybody was really sweet. And Melissa Gilbert was really sweet, but that Melissa Sue Anderson, she's also Melissa, right? That's her name.
Yep.
Melissa Sue Anderson. Like was super critical to him. And then at one point went, oh, you're the kid who's you're in that Witch Mountain movie, aren't you? And he's like, yeah, I was. And she goes, yeah, me and Willie Ames were supposed to be in that, but we turned it down because our schedules didn't allow it.
I've seen Allison Arngren, who played Nellie Olson. She had a show called Confessions of a Prairie Bitch. And that kind of, let's just say this, it tracks for Melissa Sue Anderson. I mean,
by the way, love her.
Girl. Beautiful. Oh,
yeah,
Allison Arngren is amazing.
I've seen her speak in person. She love. Yeah, she's really an amazing like advocate and a good writer, and yeah, she's great. So these two, one of the things that I learned that surprised me, Ike Eisenmann was talking about how he had been auditioning with Disney for a long time. Like they liked him, but they didn't know where to put him, basically. And he was saying that unlike other things that these kids were going on in like Little House, for example, he said, like, if you went to a Little House audition, you would show up and there'd be 8 other kids who were your type in the waiting room with you, and you'd be like, oh, here we go, but Disney didn't run things like that. He said they would see each of the children individually with no other kids around. And they would have always the same team of people who were in charge of casting kids. And, this person would read the other person's lines so that you could do your screen test and all of that. And so he didn't know until really, really far down the road that it was going to be him and Kim Richards. And he also thought he blew the audition for this. He left feeling like really not good about it. And he was like, why don't they like me at Disney? They keep bringing me in and not casting me. And, and then
I can't imagine being a child actor.
Does that sound terrible? Oh
my God. And nobody cared about your feelings then, by the way. No. We just told you all the plot lines.
Yikes.
That's not even the craziest ones from Little House on the Prairie, but yeah.
So So he was really shocked when they cast him. And he just says, like, Kim was great. Like, they seem to have, you can tell they have such wonderful, you totally buy them as siblings.
Should we play a clip? Why don't we play one of
Yes.
those? Yes.
Let's play
Okay.
a clip.
It's a marionette. So this is them.
This is
they've
such a
been
Disney
found.
part of, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so we should say one of the other choices that was made to make this less terrifying for children. This is going to sound like a weird way of doing it, but it really is smart. Is to have an actual villain. So we have an actual bad guy. We know what his motives are. They're scary, but they're Disney scary. They're like, Ursula the Witch kind of
Disney
scary.
villains.
They're Disney villains. He's a Disney villain. And, he wants to harness the kids' abilities to make himself more rich and powerful, like some
Like
people
one
would.
Yeah.
Like one would. So he has lured, and so when the guy he sends his lawyer, so that this is totally different than in the book. He sends his lawyer to pose as the kid's uncle. And the orphanage was like, "Here's your uncle. Go with your uncle." And they're like, "Okay,
Right,
I guess." We don't remember him or think he's our uncle, but again, they're younger, so it's more believable. But if you say so, but the whole time they're like, "I don't feel good about this." So the uncle's like, "You know what? We're going to take a little detour. We're going to go visit my boss. He's like a big, rich, powerful guy. Like, you'll really love him. We'll have fun staying in his big, fancy house." And they're like, "Okay, but I'm really worried because I'm seeing visions of things that are not good at this house, like dogs chasing us." But okay. And so the villain, who's played by Ray Milland, he's wonderful in the wonderful. He first just wants to wow them. They've been living in an orphanage and they don't really have a lot. So he's like, "Here's a room filled with toys. You can have ice cream on tap. It's going to be great." So they are in this little kind of guest suite for children that he has for them. Very like gingerbread house, Hansel and Gretel kind of affair. And they don't know that the whole thing is being monitored with cameras and microphones, so that they're trying to listen in to see like what's going on with these kids. So this is what the villain, played by Ray Milland, and his lawyer observe going on in the children's suite.
Tia, come here. Hey, Tony, why don't you try with your harmonica? I forget how. Come to think of it, you can do a lot of things I can't. Like working locks. In the way you can talk to me without moving your mouth. Maybe it's because you're a girl.
Delightful. They're wonderful.
They're so
They're
cute.
so good.
They're so believable. They're really 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 cute.
I
And
totally buy it.
yeah.
Oh, didn't mention when we were talking about the book that, and they sort of allude to it in the movie, as we just heard right now, but not completely. You don't really explain it completely like they do in the book, that the people that they come from don't really speak. They don't speak. They communicate telepathically. So all of the things that we think for most of the book, all of the things that we think make Tia weird, the fact that she doesn't speak and all the things that she can do, and that Tony is the normal one, we learn by the end of the book, it's the other way around. Tony's weird because he can speak. Tony's weird because he can't talk to animals and open locks and do all the things that Tia can do. He's the weird one. And everyone that they come from can do all of those things, and they really only communicate telepathically. So when they're on the phone and they're talking on the phone, it's only because it's Tony, that they're even, but they're really speaking telepathically. He doesn't realize it yet. So when she's talking about like, won't you do it without your harmonica? Because she knows, hey, you can use your telekinesis without. In the movie, he has to play his harmonica for his telekinesis to work for some reason. It's just a cute little Disney flourish, but he doesn't need to. He doesn't actually need to, but he doesn't yet remember how to do it. It's again, all sounds so bananas, but I am totally all in with these two kids.
Oh yeah. We love these movies. We absolutely love these movies. You would go like with like 20 kids from school for birthday parties and stuff like that. So it basically, just to kind of wrap it up, I mean, it just becomes kind of a chase picture. I mean, the kids, I mean, first they have their uncle that's taking care of them, and then they're being chased by some authorities, and then they're being chased by the government authorities. And the government authorities are kind of there's a case where I have this clip right now. It's like with the kids, where like a bag of flour can just like throw everything off, and that's just how they did things back then. Which I was like, okay.
But but it's fine. It's fine. I mean, and again, it's 1975. Is that when they're producing this? So for 1975, these effects, we did not question for one moment.
No,
not at all. So eventually the kids, they hook up with not the priest, not Father O'Day, but Jason O'Day, who was Eddie Albert in a Winnebago. Absolutely, utterly charming. We've talked about Eddie Albert before when we talked about Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I just love anything with Eddie Albert. I just think he's the unsung. He was he and his wife were both blacklisted. His wife, who was a famous Mexican actress named Margot, spelled Margo, the way that we spell our names.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So he was married to a Mexican actress and dancer, very famous dancer. She studied with the what is your name? Oh, give me a second.
Twyla Tharp?
No. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth. I can't remember if it was her father, because Rita Hayworth was also she also performed in Mexico, and so she was a very famous dancer, and she attended a rally against Franco, who was the fascist leader of Spain, and so for that she was branded a communist. And Eddie Albert really stood up to the committee because they were already married at this point. Just really interesting people. I mean, just somebody of tremendous integrity, I think. They had a son. I think his name is also Eddie Albert.
Was he in Butterflies Are Free?
Yes. That is their son.
Yes.
That is their son with Golden Ron. I know. We've got to do that one, right?
Got to do that one.
So Eddie Albert is absolutely delightful. He's gruff, but he also sees these kids are in trouble, and he knows that he can help them. He's unattached. Just living what do they call that now? Van life.
The van life in the 70s. In Santa Cruz. Good God, no way. I mean, the most dangerous place in the world, by the way. And these kids, that's where these kids are just like let's play the clip. There's one with the RV. I said the RV clip because you have to see it because it flies at some point.
Yeah. Which we were amazed, you guys.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
We're like, it's amazing.
just a soupçon of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Just a little whiff of it. Disney's like, "Yeah, I see you, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. How about a Winnebago?"
And nobody gets really hurt,
No.
you know. So it's got just enough adventure there. It had sequels. It's had and there was something that came out, like people were saying that came out in the mid-90s. There was a remake of it. And
Yes.
I didn't look at it.
No, I didn't either. I did look a little bit at the, what's it called? Return from Witch Mountain? The one with
Yes.
Betty Davis?
Yeah, I think both the Richard sisters have acted with Betty Davis. But this is like a time also, like these actors would do that. They would do a
Yeah.
Disney movie, they would do a TV movie, and then they would do a horror movie, and then they would maybe do some stage in New York. I mean, it's just, you took the gigs where they got, where they got them. So anyway, I really enjoyed it. This was a real fun blast in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it really holds up. And I think the book and the movie really, really hold up. I was extremely impressed. I thought it would be fun. I just did not expect it to be as good, as high caliber, writing um and a film writing as it was. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Our writer, he's not known for a whole bunch of stuff, Alexander Key, but he did write a sequel. He did write that sequel to Witch Mountain, I think. But I don't know why we don't talk about this book more. I just think it's really super good.
Yeah.
And a lot of lessons too about how society treats people who are different from them, trying to exploit them and control them and drive them out ultimately. And really, really great. Really, if you have somebody in your life who's like, I would say for the book, because they're older and it is scarier. The book is definitely scarier than the movie. But if you have somebody who's like a middle grade, like a 9 to 11-year-old, this is a great who likes to read, this is a great book.
Yeah.
Any kid who likes A Wrinkle in Time is gonna like this book. It's super good. I really enjoyed it. But what do you think, book or movie? Mhm.
I'm going to pick the movie just because it's the one I love first. And I loved it so much when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And this was such a great blast from the past for me, like I said.
It's so well done. And you really, like I said, the chemistry between the two kids, the casting is really good.
Yeah.
The casting Ray Milland as the bad guy, brilliant. Casting, I can't remember who plays the lawyer, but the guy who plays the lawyer is, again, scary, but just scary enough. He also has a little bit of a heart in there somewhere. And Eddie Albert, what's wrong with you if you don't love Eddie Albert? And these two children are just spectacular, and they are, like, in every single scene. They have to do so much, and you totally buy it. Plus, they have to do all the acting, plus flying and jumping and telekinesis to sing, and, it's a lot to ask these little children to do, but they do it so brilliantly. It's really, really super good. The Return from Witch Mountain, when they're, I guess, they're a little bit older, they're sort of like young teenagers, I'm gonna say. They're still younger than the original characters in the original book. It's also a fun movie. Like I said, I think he also had a hand in writing that one as well. So, yeah, I also am gonna give it to the film. I think the music is good. I love all the setting in the quote unquote, the contemporary time of the 70s in Santa Cruz, and I like that Truck character that we heard about early at the very beginning. Truck is like the bully at the orphanage. In the book, that kid is terrifying. He's not just like, "Oh, here's the bully." He's really scary.
But he's like also I love the red hair that he has, like that mop of red hair.
It's lovely.
It's really cute.
It's so well done. It's so well done. And I just feel very reassured that it holds up as well as it does. So delighted. I'm so happy with it. I'm really thrilled, and I have to make sure that my niece and nephew have seen it because or have I'm gonna get it for my niece because she's just about the age that she's old enough to read this book, I think. And it's kind of right up her alley. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, highly recommend both. But I am gonna give the edge to the film as well.
Well, for next month, we're going to be talking about mysteries in May. And we are going back to Agatha Christie. You and I are both very excited about this. What is the next one we're going to be covering, Margot?
Well, we have to kick off Mysteries of May, of course, with Agatha Christie, and we have talked about we did Murder on the Orient Express, and last year we did Murder on the Orient Express like before we had Mysteries in May. We just did it for funsies, but last year for our very first Mysteries in May, we kicked it off with Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile, which I could watch it like if you told me I had to watch Death on the Nile every Thursday at 7 PM for the rest of my life, I would be just fine with that because it is one of the greatest films. Well, I just love that movie so much. And a lot of the people who were involved in that film are going to be involved in the film that we're going to be talking about next time. And that is Evil Under the Sun. So we will have the return of Peter Ustinov as Poirot. He's an unconventional Poirot, but I just really love his interpretation of this character. And we have Maggie Smith. I don't know who she's playing yet in this film, but I know she's in it. And it's just really great. That's the thing about an Agatha Christie movie is the stars turn out. If it's an Agatha Christie movie, they're like, sign me up. I'm there. I'll play whoever. Oh, Jane Birkin is in this one too.
Oh, right. Jane Birkin.
Yeah. And the audiobook we were just saying is narrated by David Suchet, who is the best. He's just the best Poirot. So there's never going to be a better Poirot than David Suchet. There, I said it, Mr. Branagh. Now, I'm very excited though. But we still have some other. We haven't completely mapped out Mysteries in May yet.
No,
so
we have not.
If you have suggestions for mysteries that you would like us to talk about, we are all ears. And again, you can find us on the internet, all those places that Margot mentioned at the top of the show. And Margot, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at brooklynfitchick.com. I'm at Brooklyn Fitchick for Threads and Instagram. I'm at Brooklyn Margot for Blue Sky and for TikTok. And my YouTube channel is at my name, Margot Donahue. Margot, where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all my social media callouts are at She's Nacho Mama. Well, I'm so glad that we did this. I'm just so delighted. So much fun. Check out the work of Kim Richards, you guys. I mean, if you only know her from The Housewives. Oh, we forgot to mention, Kyle is in this film briefly.
Yes, very briefly.
When Tia has flashbacks to their shipwreck, and you see even littler Tia and even littler Tony. Even littler Tia is played by Kyle Richards, who they look very much alike.
It's just all so cute.
It's extremely adorable. But if you only know them from The Real Housewives, do yourself a favor and watch some of her work. All three of the sisters were very talented actors, and and Kathy too. Kathy was on a lot of things.
She was on Happy Days.
Yeah.
Weather Tuscadero. She had she was one of the, they all are super, super talented. Their whole backstory is fascinating. But I think Kim really, really talented person.
Yeah.
Do we want to play the trailer? The actual trailer? We'll undo with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Let's do that.
Our planet was dying. We had to find another planet to live on. I think we might have been the only ones on our spaceship to have survived. We're trying to find where home is.
You have power. I want to know. I want to be able to understand these powers.
something funny about this, Malone, and I'm gonna teach you a lesson.
He wants to learn all the things we know. We've got to get out of here before it's too late. Come on!
I will not rest until I get those children back. Find them!
You know a place called Stony Creek?
Yes.
Will you take us there?
Every lawman in the county is probably looking for this camper.
We gotta keep moving.
Those two kids are witches. You two got powers beyond belief.